Spyder, here comes Spyder, CFL's red zone. Spyder, Spyder, here comes Spyder, CFL's red zone. Hey! In the red zone.
Almost sicked it. Just having a little bit of fun. Always like a little bit of fun. Always like to have a smile, be positive. I know I get a little hyper and get a little hyped up and pissed off at times and raise my voice. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. And I'm just so passionate. I just care, and I really want to get my voice heard, you know. I mean, it's hard when you're talking to a camera, but you know, you can get into a theatrical mode too, and really get boisterous and really get into it and really, you know, hammer it home. And that's what the best of my ability, that's what I try to do. And I get so frustrated, as you know, with the Halifax counselors and this Atlantic schooner. You know, I mean, everybody, I mean, I was excited about it. You know, even I want to go back to my last 3 sessions and talk more about this, because that's why I said I'll be back again when I went back to my set. Okay, on 33, this will be 34. And, you know, yes, Halifax counselors even knocked the LeBlanc group, you know, called them a bunch of billionaires, really were attacking them. The animosity towards them and the CFL and the Grey Cup, our country, 107th Grey Cup I'm going to in Calgary with my son. Can you imagine? And to do that and to run the CFL down, the city councilors, so-called city councilors, you know, to run the CFL and to run basically our game, our 3-down game of football, an institution in our country, to run our own brand, it's like my son said, it's so true, in our own country into the ground and try to crucify it and like humiliate it, and they were ruthless, and it's, I don't know, I'm lost for words to describe how bad they were, and how rude and ignorant they were, and towards the CFL and towards a 3-down game, our own brand of 3-down football in our own country. You think they would do that to the NFL? I mean, sometimes you wonder if are they Americans or are they Canadians? Are they Haligonians / Americans, or are they Haligonians big question mark Canadian? I mean, they're disgraceful. They're both themselves, and they're only into themselves, and they're only in their own districts. That's it. Like I said, if that stadium was going, and I think that's why Mancini's for it somewhat, because it's Shannon Park. I think he's a yes vote, but if that's how hypocritical they are. All the councillors, there's 16 of them, and the mayor, right? And the pessimism around they're so pessimistic, like the mayor is too. His leadership is terrible. He's a naysayer too. He's a naysayer, no vision mayor of our city, Mayor Savage. He's a liberal. He plays the liberal political game, like most of them down there at city council, that are the so-called council that are liberals too. You know, it's unbelievable, and they've ruined our city. We're not going anywhere, and they don't do anything, by the way, about drug. Like I said before, drug panhandlers, stunt driving, speeding in their city. It's the litter. I went up to the Halifax Mainland Commons today. I had to go that way. I went up to Bears Lake to do some shopping, and I stopped there and I went around. And I said maybe that would be a good site, because there's a new, but it's near a school, okay, and it's near soccer, Scotia Bank soccer indoor facility, somewhat small indoor soccer stadium, for Nova Scotia soccer, and there's another one there too, and and it's near like soccer fields and a football field, baseball fields. There's room there, but there's a fair amount of trees that have to come down and so forth. I mean, there's no contamination. But Trudeau, sent a tender out and clean that all up, Shannon Park. So Shannon Park lands are more cleared, more fields than up there. So need a fair amount of excavation up there to put it up there. But and the group is actually looking at Bears Lake, which is very near Halifax Mainland Commons, on the other side of the Bears Lake, all the plaza area, big commercial plaza area there. There's a hospital going up there too. But that would need a fair amount of work. There's a lot of rock there to level that off. So it's all cost that's involved in excavation. Dartmouth Crossing would probably need that as well. I mean, they're talking Dartmouth Crossing with a better location. But you know what? The more I think about it now after looking at that site, you wouldn't believe the litter. And I stopped the student. I asked him, who's throwing all this litter? He said, pointed right over there, just getting out of school. The students. You should see the litter. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. We got major issues in this city, like major issues in Halifax. So City Council and Mayor, you should be dealing with these major issues. And you should be coming to the table on the CFL model stadium, a real CFL model stadium, or don't build it. Don't build it at all. Do these LeBlanc group a favor, and I hope they will. Go to Quebec City, because we need a 10th team in the CFL. Go to Quebec City, and I can guarantee you they wouldn't be negative like this and running down the CFL. They'd won a Grey Cup game in Quebec City, and they want a real CFL model stadium. They wouldn't want a half stadium with, a temporary structure, tacked up benches with outhouses on the other side. It will never fly here. It's not a CFL model stadium for a regular CFL game. And how, Randy and Brosey, how would you ever approve that? How will the Board of Governors ever approve that type of Mickey Mouse little bare bone half a stadium in Halifax for a CFL franchise? How would you even approve that? And where are you, Randy and Brosey, on this? Where are you? What are you doing to help on this? What are you doing to encourage this? Where are you? Why aren't you down in Halifax with the LeBlanc group and sitting down with the mayor and the councillors and the premier and bring Trudeau into the equation? Okay? He can do all the infrastructure in Shannon Park and put a new ferry in there, which would be needed, by the way, terminal, and a fast speed ferry system. And by the way, put it in Bedford and have a connection, a drop-off terminal at Shannon Park, and have the main new terminal with a fast ferry system into Bedford, which is needed. It's all interconnected and intertwined with the Shannon Park development, which, by the way, is Canada again, fed lands. Okay, and Canada Games are managing and selling off the properties and so forth, and encouraging development there. They're managing the whole thing. But it's Trudeau. It's their federal land. So do something, Trudeau. Put the roads in there. Put all the water and the sewer, everything in there for the stadium, and for all the development around the stadium, like what happened in Lansdowne, in Ottawa. Okay, and then Shannon Park will be something. It'll have hotels, restaurants. Okay, deluxe apartments. Okay. And a commercial area, maybe an aquarium someday. There's 80 some acres there. They only want like I think 12 acres or 15 acres. The Schooner group, and they want that. The price of the land, 10 million. In on the price of building this Mickey Mouse little rinky-dinky stadium. Which, by the way, if they're going to build, just close the book on and get the hell out of town. Really, excuse my French. Go to Quebec City. I'm tired of talking about this. Mayor Savage, you are an absolute. Seriously, no vision and no sayer like the city councillors. Horrible, terrible, no vision and no clue, no brain, ignorant, rude, embarrassing mayor for our city. You're an absolute disgrace, just like the city councillors. So I'm going to close the book on this, and I hope, I hope in a way, the Atlantic Schooners do too, and go to Quebec City, and and they'd welcome with open arms. And you see the 10th CFL franchise in Quebec City, within probably 3 or 4 years it will happen. And then you'll see an amazing CFL model stadium built and a Grey Cup game in Quebec City someday. It'll happen. They need that 10th team. They need to make a lot of changes, though, for the CFL to be able to blossom in a league and build their brand and sell a lot more season tickets and put a lot more people in the seats. And they need to make necessary changes to do that. And if they don't, they'll never have a 10th CFL franchise. It's not a really healthy time right now, and the councillors were bringing that to the forefront. And you know, although they signed a new TSN deal, and that's going to keep the CFL going for another 5 years. But you know, the Argonauts, look at it. And by the way, the CFL is exaggerating Randy Ambrosie on attendance. They're saying like 15, 18,000 or so, 15,000 on an average or so at an Argonaut game, or 12, whatever. But it's 5 or 6. Like I hate to say it, I don't want to call you a liar, but there aren't true attendance numbers and statistics. They're way off. And when they say there's 24, 25,000 in Edmonton at games, there's 12,000. There's half that. Same in BC. When they say they're 18, there may be 8 or 9. It's true. It's brutal. They exaggerate all of them, not just in the weak markets. And in Ottawa too, they exaggerate. And in Hamilton, in Ottawa, there's a lot of empty seats. And look what happened after the collective bargaining agreement. Look what's happened since Randy Ambrosie has been commissioner of the CFL. Since Ambrosie been the commissioner of the CFL, and more like, commissioner of the Canadian Players and Canadian Players Association. Okay, like Dave Dickinson called, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers when they were screwed last year, Western Final, taking back 2 touchdowns that were touchdown. Man, to screw them out of that victory to go to the Grey Cup. And same thing's happening this year. And like I said in my last session, they're getting their whiffs, because I don't believe the Stampeders are going to make it. And of course, the one-year contracts didn't practically depleted the whole team. I think someone said there's like 24 some players that from the Grey Cup champions last Stampeder Grey Cup champion team that's not on the Stampeder team this year. That's insane. And look what happened to Ottawa. I mean, I mentioned too last time, like 300 I said 130 free agents. There's 330 free agents, by the way. 30 some or less per team. That's how many. It's outrageous. It's an embarrassment, and that's what happened to Ottawa, how their team got depleted. And that's why, imagine, you get the 9th team, the Ottawa Red Blacks, from the Ottawa Renegades time when they were brutal, and they were in big fun. They went down. I mean, it was brutal. They get a brand new stadium. They get a new name, Ottawa Red Blacks. They're successful. The draft was good. They make them competitive. Look what they did in the first 3 or 4 years, in existence. They were unbelievable. And look what happened this year because of what happened in collective bargaining agreement. The Canadian starter ratio needed to be changed. They wanted to change it from 7 to 5. Didn't happen. It should have been, actually, all the owners wanted it gone completely, which it should be gone. Like in MLS soccer, they don't have a Canadian starter ratio. They have to, they're forced to play 7 Canadian starters, and if they're not good enough, they're still forced to play them, start them and play them. The MLS FC, Toronto FC soccer team would be out of business. So would the Montreal and Vancouver. They'd be out of business. They'd be folded. And that's what's happening with the CFL, with the Canadian ratio. It's got to fold the CFL. If it's not changed, it's got to be eliminated. Canadian starter ratio has got to be eliminated to allow the best available players to start and play in every position for an entire CFL game. Just like in all the other professional sports leagues, including MLS soccer, has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, actually, you know what? Dave Dickinson said recently, they asked him about, just the other night, I think it was last night I heard, he said something about they were asked, why didn't you play the running back, American running back Jackson against the Bombers? Very important game. You know, if they would have won that game, lost by a point, they could have, if they would have won BC, they would have got the Western Final at home. St. Peter's would have won first place. And he said he couldn't play him because he would have to take out 2 American. He said American O-lineman. They didn't want to put a Canadian O-lineman in there. A kid doesn't even deserve to be on the field. No business being on the field, and not good enough to start. But they're forced to start them to fill the Canadian starter ratio. And he said he'd have to take out an American receiver. Can you imagine? To bring in an American running back. What kind of baloney is this? That's a Canadian ratio baloney. How problematic is this? It's not just that, it's the whole friggin' starting roster. It's all the starting positions. They have a nightmare. They got to start maybe 9 to 10 players because of injuries to juggle the Canadian ratio. When they don't have to start 7, but they have to start more Canadians. And they're not even good enough because of the Canadian starter ratio. It's major. It's a major problem. Every play, every game, every down, every week. And then half the roster has to be Canadian. It's unbelievable. That's why their special teams are so weak. Calgary always had 3 phases strong through. Their special teams are brutal because of their Canadian content that BC fans complained about a long time ago and walked away. Tens of thousands walked away complaining about Canadian race. So did Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans that called in and said, what's the good of having a brand new stadium? You can't even play the best available players in it because of the bloody Canadian ratio. And he said the Canadian content is brutal. And he called out at practice, he was watching these guaranteed Canadian ratio linemen, you know, laughing, going on because they know they can't be replaced. And other Canadian starter players because they know their position is guaranteed by the Canadian starter ratio. They can't be replaced and bring in better players to replace them to start and play. And they lost all kinds of fans. They got this new stadium, it's half full. Like and their attendance is exaggerated too. All of them they are. And you know, like saying they're like the percentage they give in 3 Down Nation and what percentage they're down in attendance, 9%, that was down way more than that. Or that was ratings, it could have been, might have been attendance. But anyway, whatever number they give in attendance, you can multiply by 2 or 3 to get the real number. Okay, I mean, in relation to how many empty seats, how much the attendance is down in every CFL stadium in the CFL. And it's not revealed. The truth is not revealed. It's a big cover-up by embracing the CFL. I wanted to go over that, you know. But unless necessary changes are made, and unless finally the GMs and the coaches can recruit the best available players to start in every position for an entire CFL game, okay, without being handcuffed and dictated to by a Canadian starter ratio and a guaranteed half Canadian starter roster ratio, the CFL's doomed. It's going down. It will fold. I can guarantee you. And if this is not done in the next 2 years, a new collective bargaining agreement, they're going to fold. The CFL franchise are going to go down. And if they, seriously, they need to bring in my CFL Red Zone rule. They need Spyder's combo. They need to make our game more exciting and more entertaining. And there's only one rule that can do that. And to kill the 2 biggest killers of our CFL 3-down game. That being, seriously, way too many, too often, distasteful 2-down football stops in the red zone. Okay? Resulting in way too many boring, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals in the red zone. By the way, they will both be completely gone. Can you imagine that? They will disappear with my CFL Red Zone rule. Can you imagine that? My second version of my CFL Red Zone rule with my CFL Red Zone rule attachment to my CFL Red Zone rule. Okay? They need that combo. Okay, they need that combo. And now that I'm talking about my CFL Red Zone rule, I just wanted to mention something, go over that again, about Christopher Jones, okay, at 3 Down Nation. When he said, oh, the dumbest rule, and Spyder wants 4-down football, okay? He's talking about my rule. It's not 4-down football, and I want to try to go over that, but I want to go over it a little better because I left out red zone. I meant to should put emphasis more on the red zone. Now, I just want to explain this to you and everybody out there, okay? But all the people I surveyed knew it very easily and fully. Actually, and Brosey didn't even tune in, you know, when I presented it to him. Or Jensen, his name is. Okay, can you imagine that? Because they were, you know what? Because of ego. Because they're off, like they just think they know it all. They think they know everything about the CFL. But just because of the commission doesn't make you know everything about the CFL. You better start listening, Randy and Bros. You don't listen. You said, oh, I'm going to listen to the CFL fans. You don't listen to CFL fans. 350 I surveyed. Now more than that, almost 400. And Steve Armitage, who gave my CFL Red Zone rule a stamp approval. You didn't listen. You didn't listen to all the people I surveyed that want my CFL Red Zone rule. You didn't listen. You don't listen. You're all about yourself. You're self-centered, and you're all about yourself. And by the way, like when Dave Dickinson said the Canadian Mafia was being screwed in last year's Western Final when he called out the CFL, and you know, I mean, the Canadian Mafia, Winnipeg. I mean, the CEO is a guaranteed Canadian ratio player, and Brosey, the commissioner, is a guaranteed Canadian ratio player. O'Shea was a guaranteed ratio player, you know, guaranteed Canadian ratio starting player. O'Shea was, and so was their GM. And so when Dickinson yelled the Canadian Mafia, well, now in Brosey, he's the godfather of the Canadian Mafia. Seriously. That's how I feel, how bad the politics is and how political Randy and Brosey is. And it's another reason the CFL is in big trouble. Big trouble. And you watch the Calgary Stampeders get screwed even in BC. And if they play Winnipeg, which they will, and the Riders, probably they will, both, or lose to Winnipeg, probably in Winnipeg, because they'll probably screw them in BC, they'll screw Calgary every play they can to make sure they don't beat Winnipeg. Or if they were to, they'd have to beat them by some margin to win because the referees are going to be screwing them, okay, to make sure they lose when they play the Bombers. So they never get to play the Riders. If Riders win first place, which they should have beat Edmonton. They're really weak on the back end. The defensive backs are really weak that I noticed. And Harrison, he just got back. Trevor Harris, sorry. And Jones, are specialty running back, he was really good. They lost him, so Saskatchewan will beat him easily in Saskatchewan on the weekend. So they'll win first place. So anyway, what I wanted to say about my rule, just quickly, is Christopher Jones is not 4-down football. That's ridiculous, okay? 4-down football is 4-down for American football. So when you're in the red zone, if they need the 4th down to score a touchdown and they want to go for it, there's the 4th down. Okay? My CFL Red Zone rule, basically, that's there now. It's a rule that's already in place in the CFL rulebook. Okay? CFL teams, when they're in the red zone, can go for it in 3rd down to score a touchdown. But they don't. That's the problem. On the 1-yard line they do, most of the times. But on the 5, the 4, the 3, and even the 2, they don't. Majority of the times they don't. Okay? So my CFL Red Zone rule, Christopher Jones, is an enforcement rule. And my CFL Red Zone rule is an enforcement rule that if they need the 3rd down to score a touchdown in the red zone, and they stay in the red zone, maintain possession of the ball, there's an enforcement rule that they have to use a 3rd down to go forward to score a touchdown. Now, wouldn't that be a lot more exciting? And guess what? They get rewarded because now it's an enforcement rule. So you got to give them a reward if they stay in the red zone and maintain possession of the ball, okay, on 3rd down. If they get stopped and don't score a touchdown, they get rewarded with Spyder CFL Red Zone kick. But from the 35, which could be from the 42 if you add the 7. But let's say from the 35, which is a way more challenging kick. And they can't fake it, by the way, and go for a touchdown. They have to kick my Spyder CFL Red Zone kick. So it's not 4 downs, Christopher Jones. So you obviously don't know anything about my rule. And there's an optional provision part to my rule, an optional provision part that I'm going to go over my next session I do for the caretaker, Mr. Bob Young. And another incredible part of my rule, okay, my CFL Red Zone rule, which makes it even more exciting too, adds more drama to it. On third down, okay, they go for it in third down, my CFL Red Zone rule, to score a touchdown, and they're stopped, right? Okay, and forced outside the red zone rule. If they're stopped, they stop them from scoring a touchdown using my CFL Red Zone rule in third down, which is huge. But if they stop them in third down and force them outside the red zone, they don't get rewarded with my Spyder CFL Red Zone kick. So there it is in a nutshell. Okay, I hope that's a little better to explain it, but there is in a nutshell. So, and Christopher Jones, for you also, I forgot to mention, the rundown that Steve Armitage is behind my CFL Red Zone rule. I read that comment by you, and you run Let's Talk CFL, you should be ashamed of yourself, running down Steve Armitage, 27 Grey Cups, he's an icon, and a prominent sports figure like that endorses my CFL Red Zone rule and gives it a stamp of approval. You should be saying, wow, this is a real big rule, Spyder CFL Red Zone rule, which it is, by the way, because that solidifies it. Really, when you have someone like Steve Armitage behind it and endorse it, you know it's big. And it is big. My CFL Red Zone is big. And by the way, just look at the monitor. I didn't have the monitor up very good. I'm soon going to time out, by the way. But this is my original Spyder's proposed CFL Red Zone rule hat. I had the banner that it's going to be like the monitor. That I'm going to have a smaller banner, and I'm going to have my new Spyder CFL Red Zone rule hats on it. And it's going to basically sell, you know, my CFL Red Zone rule. You know, basically sell it. So, and also, please check out my safe book. I'm going to have that at the Grey Cup with some flyers, hopefully. And please check out my safe Facebook page. God, because I know I'm under the gun for time. And you'll find like my presentation made as CFL commissioner, the CFL there, picture of Steve Armitage, me with my CFL Red Zone rule hats, right? All kinds of stuff there. 10 super featured and benefits my CFL Red Zone rule, my CFL Spyder CFL Red Zone rule diagram, my banners, all kinds of